The serial killer who cleaned the house before he killed. The house smelled like lemons, fresh, sterile, too clean. Detectives stepped in expecting a struggle, signs of panic, anything. But the floor was spotless. The windows were polished, the dishes were washed and stacked in perfect symmetry. Only one thing was wrong. There was a corpse in the bathtub, eyes wide open, water still running. It wasn't the first time. The last house had been vacuumed, scented candles lit, laundry folded. Before the crime scene techs arrived, the place looked ready for an open house, until you saw the body, always staged, always centered, always silent. He didn't leave messages, he left order. The media called him the housekeeper, not because he cleaned up after the murders, but because he cleaned before them. Every scene was a reflection of obsessive control. Surfaces scrubbed, furniture aligned, clutter removed. Then came the kill, precise, unrushed, like the final act of a meticulous ritual. Victims had nothing in common. Different cities, backgrounds, lifestyles, but they all had something in their homes he hated: mess, disarray. It was as if the chaos offended him, as if he wasn't just erasing a life, he was restoring a space. He never forced entry, no broken locks, no stolen goods. Only a clean floor, a dead body, and one overwhelming question. Why did he purify the space before he spilled blood in it? Because sometimes the most terrifying killers are the ones who make everything look beautiful before they destroy it. You'd expect a killer to leave chaos behind, smashed furniture, blood on the walls, panic frozen in the air. But he did the opposite. He vacuumed before he killed. He polished glass, wiped down kitchen counters, even lit scented candles. Every murder began with a transformation, turning a messy home into a sterile altar. And then, once everything was perfect, he ended a life. They called him the housekeeper. But this wasn't a cover-up. He didn't clean to hide the crime. He cleaned because it was part of it. No forced entry, no signs of rage, just a perfect room and a perfectly silent corpse. Who was he? How did he choose his victims? And why did he insist on purifying the space before staining it with death? This story dives deep into a mind ruled by control, ritual, and obsession. A man who believed every home was a reflection of its soul, and that some souls needed to be cleansed. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more dark and disturbing stories like this one. Leave a like if you're into criminal psychology and comment below. From which country and city are you watching? We're building a community of those who seek to understand what most fear to confront. Now take a deep breath and step inside. His last house. Chapter 1. The first house looked abandoned until they found the windows gleaming. The house had been reported for noise complaints. Not loud music, not screaming, just something off. A strange humming at night. A smell that neighbors couldn't describe. Too clean, they said. Police expected a squatter's den or maybe a drug setup. What they found was silence, stillness, and an overwhelming scent of bleach. From the outside, it looked deserted. Peeling paint, cracked windows, overgrown grass. But when they stepped inside, the illusion shattered. The floor was polished, the countertops gleamed, even the ceiling fan had been dusted. Not a single dish in the sink, not a single fingerprint on any surface. Except one, on the edge of the tub. The body was posed, arms crossed, eyes open, lips slightly parted. No signs of struggle, no visible wounds, just a still, pale woman lying in lukewarm water. The tub had been scrubbed recently, not to remove blood, but to shine, as if her death were a final touch in a larger display. An exhibit, a statement. Detectives found no forced entry, no broken locks, no signs of theft. But the fridge had been cleaned out, shelves wiped, expired food thrown away. Laundry had been done, folded, the bed made with military precision. It was as if someone had moved in and then decided someone else had to move out. The victim's name was Martha Liddell, elementary school teacher, lived alone, no enemies. The last security camera footage showed her entering the house 4 days earlier, and no one else after. But someone had been there, someone who didn't break in, but entered like he belonged. The forensics team found something chilling. The air vents had been vacuumed, baseboards wiped down, trash removed, replaced with fresh liners. Whoever killed her had cleaned the house before and after the murder, except for the tub. The tub was left untouched, because she was part of it now. In the hallway, taped to the back of the closet door, was a note. Just one word: sanctified. No handwriting match, no fingerprints, printed on ivory stationery, folded with care. As if left not for the police, but for the room itself. Neighbors described seeing a man days earlier, tall, quiet, dressed like a contractor. He carried a toolbox and cleaning supplies. They assumed Martha had hired help. She hadn't. No appointments, no receipts, no fingerprints on the door, only that faint smell of lemon and ammonia drifting in the air. The case made local news, but without clues, it faded quickly. No next of kin to push for answers. No message from the killer. Just an empty house that still smelled like antiseptic weeks later. A home cleaner than it had ever been. Except now, it was haunted. Years later, when other scenes began to surface, with the same bleach scent, the same obsessive order, detectives returned to Martha's file, and suddenly what looked like a one-time tragedy became the first chapter of something darker. Because this wasn't a crime of passion. It was the beginning of a ritual. One house at a time, one soul at a time. Until everything was clean. Chapter 2. He always started in the kitchen and ended in the bathroom. The next crime scene was in Ohio. Different city, different victim, but the rhythm identical. The front door locked from the inside. No signs of struggle, no mess. The apartment looked like it had just been listed for rent, except for the body, once again in the bathtub. Eyes open, water running. Detectives began piecing together the unseen choreography. There was a method to his madness. He always began in the kitchen. Every dish cleaned, spices organized, labels all turned outward, trash taken out, fridge wiped. Even the oven was degreased. He didn't just tidy up, he deep cleaned with purpose. After the kitchen, he moved to the living room. Cushions straightened, remote controls lined up. He vacuumed in parallel lines. He removed dust from ceiling corners. One detective swore she smelled lavender beneath the stronger scent of bleach. It wasn't just order, it was intention. As if he believed the space had to be worthy of what came next. Then came the hallway, always vacuumed last, always clear of shoes or coats, always a transition between the cleansed space and the room where he would end it. The bathroom wasn't just where the body was left, it was the climax of the ritual, the sanctum, the altar. The victim this time was Gregory Miles, 43, divorced, real estate agent. He lived alone, didn't entertain often. Which made what police found even more disturbing. Fresh hand towels, scented soap still in the packaging, toothbrushes replaced, as if someone had prepared the space for a guest. The autopsy revealed something new, traces of tranquilizers, just enough to paralyze, not to kill, which meant Gregory had likely seen him, had spoken to him, had watched as the man calmly scrubbed his home, before calmly ending his life. Again, a note was found, same ivory stationery, same single word, purified. No envelope, no fingerprints, but it had been placed in the fridge atop a carton of milk, as if he wanted the investigators to feel it. Cold, sterile, personal. Neighbors described a man carrying groceries, wearing rubber gloves. They assumed he was a health worker. One even held the door open for him. He smiled, said, "Thank you," and vanished 2 days later, just like the scent of bleach that clung to the hallways. The behavioral analyst brought in had a theory. He's not erasing the victim. He's erasing the life around them, making it quiet, controlled, holy. He wasn't hiding, he was presenting. Each death wasn't just an act, it was a finished product. And always, it ended in the bathroom. He never changed this, because in his mind, that's where the impurity lived. That's where everything could be washed away. And that's where silence echoed best. Tiles, steam, still water, the killer's mirror, a clean reflection with a corpse at its center. Chapter 3. No signs of entry. But the victim's cleaning supplies were always missing. It was a detail most officers ignored at first. Who cares if the Windex is gone or the gloves under the sink? But when a third scene revealed the same eerie absence, no bleach, no mop, no sponges, not even the garbage bags, detectives began to realize he wasn't just cleaning the house, he was taking the tools with him. The third victim was 29-year-old Melinda Torres, a quiet, freelance illustrator who lived in a studio apartment in Denver. Her death matched the others perfectly. Bathtub, still water, no wounds. But her sister, who came to collect her belongings, noticed something odd. Where's her stuff? She always kept a basket under the sink. Empty. Every bottle, every rag, gone. It happened again in Atlanta, then in Phoenix, then Seattle. 4 different cities, 4 different victims, and in each one, no signs of forced entry. But always one small cabinet left wide open, like he wanted someone to notice what wasn't there. Some officers thought it was symbolic, others said it was practical, leaving no traces behind. But one profiler saw it differently. He doesn't just need control, he needs ownership. By taking the tools, he took the act itself. He erased the process, as if the cleaning had never happened. Crime scene analysts confirmed the theory. Every trace of bleach used matched major commercial brands. But not a single fingerprint or DNA trace remained on anything, not even the victim's cleaning bottles. They weren't wiped down, they were replaced, each one missing, removed as trophies or confessions. One scene had a chilling extra detail. In the laundry room, they found a single sticky note stuck to the inside of the cabinet door, written in blue ink. "You left it dirty, I made it right." It wasn't signed, But by now, they didn't need a signature. In the fifth house, they found something new, security footage. A neighbor's porch camera caught a man leaving the apartment in broad daylight. He was wearing gloves, carrying 2 large grocery bags. He paused at the curb, looked directly at the camera, then smiled, subtle, controlled, before walking off into sunlight. The footage wasn't clear enough for identification, but it gave them a timeline. He always stayed for hours, sometimes overnight, not to watch, to clean, to prepare. To create something flawless, and when it was done, he packed up his tools and disappeared like a professional. He wasn't cleaning after the murder. He was building toward it. Every product had purpose, every gesture a step in a ritual. No fingerprints, no mess, no blood, just silence, citrus, and something deeper, pride, as if he believed he'd done something noble. And as investigators closed each case file, they found themselves haunted by the same question. Was the house ever really theirs? Or had he already been there, watching, studying the mess, preparing to make it perfect? Because when your cleaning supplies vanish, it may not mean you're forgetful. It may mean someone's already chosen you, and he's just getting started. Chapter 4, One Survivor. Said she woke up and her house was already clean. She lived alone. Small condo, 3rd floor, keycard entry, digital locks. She double-checked them every night. Her name was Alyssa Benton, 35, a trauma counselor. She didn't own pets, didn't host guests. She liked order, routine, control, which is why when she woke up that morning and found her house immaculate, she screamed. The floors were vacuumed, dishes washed, dried, stacked, closet color-coded, bathroom towels folded like hotel linens. Even the garbage cans had new liners. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was broken. Nothing was out of place, except everything. She called the police, breathless, but there were no signs of forced entry, no tampering with the locks, no fingerprints, no evidence of a break-in, only a presence. And one more thing, a small white envelope taped to her bedroom mirror. Inside, a note. You were almost perfect. The detective who arrived had been working another case. He heard the phrase and froze. He asked if she had cleaning supplies under the sink. She said yes. They checked. Empty. Every spray bottle, every sponge, gone, like the others. But Alyssa wasn't dead. She had survived something no one else had. Or maybe she had been rejected, chosen, prepared, but spared because of something he saw or didn't. She remembered nothing unusual from the night before, took her usual melatonin, watched a movie, went to sleep. No sounds, no movements, no dreams. But one thing haunted her. When I woke up, it smelled like lemons, and someone had brushed my hair. Investigators turned her home into a crime scene. No entry points, no camera footage. But in her bedroom mirror, they found a smudge, a single gloved fingerprint. Not on the glass, on the back, as if he'd turned it toward himself. Before deciding, psychologists debated the meaning. Had he changed his mind? Did he see something in her that stopped him? Or was she just a rehearsal? A test run? A moment where the ritual paused itself to reflect? She wasn't the exception. She was the mirror. Alyssa moved away, changed her name, but she kept the envelope. She framed the note and hung it in her new bathroom, a reminder, a warning. You were almost perfect. But sometimes she wonders, what if one day he finishes the job? She still lives in fear, still checks the locks, still avoids citrus-scented cleaners. But the silence haunts her most, because it wasn't the noise that signaled danger. It was the absence of it. And now, every morning she wakes. She runs her finger across the counter and whispers, if it's clean, he's back. Chapter 5. The houses were always cleaner than the police evidence rooms. It was a joke at first, dark humor among exhausted detectives. This guy should be running a cleaning service. But the joke stopped being funny when they realized he was better at it than they were. No smudged surfaces, no fiber residue, no cross-contamination, just spotless silence and death. One forensic tech admitted it. We're trained to preserve evidence, but he's trained to erase everything. Every surface was lab-level sterile. Every cabinet was alphabetized, every bathroom mirror flawless. No hair strands, no skin cells. Only one thing remained in every house, his intention. The more scenes they visited, the more ashamed they felt. He left no trace, but every room felt like a message, not to the victims, not to society, to them, as if he were saying, you arrived too late. And you were never clean enough. He didn't make mistakes. The towels were never damp. The trash bags were always tied the same way. Double knot, twisted left, toilet paper folded at the edge, hotel style, always lemon, never lavender, always silent, never rushed. The head of forensics in Utah broke down after her third case. She said it felt like walking into someone else's order, like being invited into a space you weren't worthy of disturbing. She refused to return to the next site. He's not cleaning after murder, he's cleaning before God. In one scene, a detective found a strange mark on the inside of a cupboard, an almost invisible streak. Upon analysis, it was found to be police-grade fingerprint powder, not from their team, from his. He was mocking them, cleaning their work, before they even did it. Another case revealed that he'd reinstalled a cabinet door that had been crooked, straightened the hinges, lubricated the drawers. Even tightened loose screws on a broken outlet cover. This wasn't just murder, this was renovation, murder as maintenance, death as design. The FBI set up a specialized task force, not just for tracking him, but to match his level of precision. They brought in forensic architects, behavioral pattern analysts with OCD, people who didn't just study killers, they studied symmetry, because that's what he left behind. A perfect, deadly symmetry. The behavioral profile shifted. He wasn't emotionally driven. He was a perfectionist in decay. He entered spaces of chaos and disorder and erased them, cleansed them, sanctified them. The victim, just one more imperfection, removed with care. And so, the investigation changed. They stopped looking for rage. They started looking for ritual, for the quiet handyman, the friendly neighbor with a vacuum, the man who walks into a place you forgot to clean and leaves it gleaming, with you gone. Because his message was clear, I fix what you neglect, even if it breathes. Chapter 6. The notes started changing, and one of them said, "You're next." It began with a single word, sanctified, then purified, then corrected. But by the sixth house, the notes stopped being abstract. They became sentences, messages, directed at someone. And the most chilling one yet wasn't left in a drawer or a fridge. It was taped to a mirror, written in red ink, and it said, "You're next." The detective who found it was Michael Greer, 6 years in homicide, unshakable, until that night. The note had no blood, no fingerprints, but it was addressed, literally. The back read, "Detective Greer, stop touching my work." No one outside the precinct even knew Greer was on the case. That meant only one thing. The killer was watching them. Internal affairs was brought in. Every officer investigated. No leaks, no contacts, no online chatter. The killer had found a way to track the investigators, and now he was writing to them like pen pals, but instead of signatures, he left silence and scent. The notes began to escalate. One found inside a vacuum bag read, "Your tools are dirty." Another, left behind the toilet tank, said, "You missed a spot." They weren't just threats, they were insults, mockery laced with discipline, like a teacher disappointed in his students. One note left in a kitchen drawer had a shopping list: bleach, lemon oil, gloves, plastic sheeting, one last touch. It was dated 3 days before the next murder. They had the list in their hands and still couldn't stop him. The killer had become the narrator. In Baltimore, a scene included no victim, no body, just a spotless house, curtains drawn, all lights off, and one note on the wall. "I thought about it. They were clean enough. You, however, you're not." It wasn't a crime scene. It was a message station. The team psychologist warned them, "You're no longer investigating him, he's investigating you." He was studying their methods, reading their reports, predicting their steps, not because he feared them, but because he needed to know when to act and when to pause, because control was everything. Greer stopped sleeping. He began receiving notes outside the crime scenes. One taped to his car mirror, "Do you mop your own kitchen, Michael?" One left inside his mailbox, "You missed the corners." That night, he ripped his house apart, vacuumed twice, then sat by the door with a gun, waiting for someone who never came. They moved Greer off the case. Not because he failed, but because he was becoming part of it. His house smelled like bleach. He stopped answering calls. He stared at mirrors for hours. He no longer felt like a detective. He felt like a target, or worse, a student. The killer had shifted tactics, the ritual remained, but now he was weaving his process into theirs, leaving breadcrumbs not for clues, but for pressure, not to reveal himself, but to remind them he sees what they don't. And the last note, found folded inside a police report, said only, "Clean is not enough. I want silence." Chapter 7. He was always near water, and so were the victims. The bodies were always wet: bathtub, shower, sink. But no one thought much of it at first. A killer who left his victims in water. It wasn't unheard of, but when investigators plotted the locations on a map, something clicked. Every single one was within walking distance of water. Not just any water, still water, rivers, reservoirs, water towers. In Denver, the victim's apartment faced an abandoned purification plant. In Seattle, her building was 2 blocks from a drained lake bed. In Baltimore, the crime scene was 3 doors down from a water tank station. It wasn't coincidence, it was pattern, deliberate, designed, devotional. The profiler called it a baptism ritual. But no one liked that term. It implied he believed in something, that he saw murder as a cleansing, And the way he left the bodies, eyes open, submerged just enough. It wasn't for concealment, it was for presentation. A stage made of tile and water. Investigators revisited the crime scenes. This time, with a focus on plumbing. In one case, they found evidence that the killer had unclogged a drain before the murder. In another, he had repaired a leaky pipe under the sink. In yet another, he replaced a rusted faucet. He was more than clean. He was fixing things, sanitizing chaos. The smell of bleach was constant, but so was the presence of steam, warm, heavy, lingering. He always left the water running, just enough to fog mirrors, to hum through the pipes. It was as if the house itself was breathing, exhaling disorder, inhaling silence. In one apartment, a disturbing detail emerged. Inside the tank of the toilet, beneath the lid, they found a laminated photo, an image of an empty bathtub, freshly scrubbed. No blood, no body, just tile, white and pristine. On the back, written in waterproof marker, "This is where it begins." Detective Cassandra Rooks, new to the case, made a connection no one else had. She'd studied ritual symbolism in violent offenders. She pointed to cults, Puritan sects, and even ancient purification rites. He's not just killing them, he's preparing them, and water is his threshold. Each victim had been staged as if they had been washed away. The psychological theory deepened: water as control, water as silence, water as rebirth. He wasn't hiding bodies, he was finishing them, returning them to a state he believed was pure. And every drop of bleach, every drained sink was part of his gospel. They started searching public records for properties near water, places recently deep cleaned, service requests involving plumbing, cleaning services, noise complaints with chemical smells. And they found something, a vacant house on the edge of a dry lake in Missouri. No bodies, but a tub that had been scrubbed until the porcelain peeled, and a note, damp, wrinkled, barely legible. This place was too far gone. They were close. They could feel it, but the closer they came, the cleaner the scenes became. No more fingerprints, no more hair. Even the air smelled filtered. He was moving faster, growing more precise, and now they knew where to look. Anywhere water waited, anywhere silence echoed, anywhere chaos could be cleansed. Chapter 8. His first kill wasn't his first cleaning. It started as a rumor, an old case file buried in a Midwestern police station. No murder, no theft. Just a call about a break-in, where the only thing stolen was dirt. The carpets had been cleaned, the dishes washed, the furniture rearranged with eerie precision. They called it the polite intruder, and then they forgot about it. But a junior analyst on the task force pulled the file years later, because the photos, they felt wrong, too familiar. The lemon scent was mentioned, the symmetrical vacuum lines, the folded towels. No body in the bathtub, yet. But the scene screamed him. Before the blood, before the notes, there was still ritual. It happened in Springfield, Illinois. A young couple on vacation, gone for 3 days. Came back to find their apartment spotless. Bed made, pantry reorganized, TV remote placed exactly in the center of the coffee table. No sign of forced entry, nothing stolen, just reordered, cleansed, touched. The police dismissed it. No fingerprints, no suspects, no damage, just confusion. Probably a prank, the officer wrote in his report. But the fridge was emptied, the laundry done. even the toothbrushes replaced with new ones, as if the home itself had been rehearsed. The couple moved out months later. They never slept well after. Every night, they swore the air smelled like bleach, that something had changed. The woman said the house never felt like theirs again. It was like he moved in without us, like we were the intruders now. What struck investigators wasn't what he did. It was what he didn't. No violence, no message. No purpose yet, but everything else was already there. The process, the silence, the obsession with making chaos disappear, one tile, one thread, one soul at a time. They went back to the apartment, now rented by someone new. Nothing strange on the surface. But inside the HVAC system, tucked between dusty filters, they found a cloth bag. Inside, a used sponge, a bottle of lemon cleaner, a folded white card, blank on both sides, but soaked through with something that wasn't water. Forensic analysis showed it had been placed there years ago. No prints, no DNA, but the chemical residue matched the exact same compounds found in the bleach at every murder scene. This wasn't a fluke. This was his first ritual, his first cleansing. Before the killing, there was just silence. One profiler theorized, he didn't start with murder. He started with violation without pain, reordering lives before ending them. It was a trial run, a dry rehearsal. He wanted to feel the space, to reshape it, to breathe his control into someone else's mess without having to spill blood. Yet. And so they dug deeper, not just into crime scenes, but into sanitized places. Houses that had been mysteriously cleaned. Airbnb reviews that mentioned unexpected organization. Apartment complaints about chemical odors, because maybe his first kill wasn't his first crime. Maybe he'd always been there, in the corners, behind the mirrors, fixing, polishing. Waiting for the moment when silence wasn't enough and the water had to run red. Chapter 9. Then he disappeared for 427 days, until a house was found, gleaming in the woods. It was the longest silence yet. 427 days. No murders, no notes, no lemons, just emptiness. The task force nearly dissolved. Psychologists debated whether he'd killed himself, moved, found peace, but he hadn't vanished. He was building. It was a hiker who found it, deep in the Appalachian woods. No roads, no paths, just a clearing, and in the center a small wooden house, unmarked, windowless. But what made her stop wasn't the structure, it was the smell. Citrus, so strong it clung to the trees. She approached the house. The door wasn't locked. It didn't even have a knob, just a push latch perfectly flush with the frame. Inside, the space gleamed. Tile floors, stainless steel countertops, a single chair in the middle of the room, centered on a white circle painted on the floor. No dust, no insects, no breath. The authorities were called. They expected a cabin. They found a shrine. No blood, no victim. Just cleanliness so extreme it felt aggressive. The walls were wiped down with industrial disinfectant. The vents had been filtered with charcoal and lemon oil. Every surface was polished, every angle symmetrical. Then they found the message, etched into the metal underside of the sink with something sharp. Not a knife, not a key, a scalpel. The words were precise. I watched the world rot. So I built this. This time no one had to die. It wasn't a kill site. It was a test chamber. They found weights under the floorboards, used to simulate body mass. A tub installed with a false drain. A retractable plastic curtain hidden in the wall. It was like a film set, a practice ground, not for killing, for staging. The floor beneath the chair had markings, feet outlines, handprints, different positions. He had rehearsed the scene over and over, where the body should fall, where the light would hit, where silence should begin. This wasn't art, it was choreography, and he was the director. They searched the woods for weeks. No footprints, no signs of entry or exit, no discarded tools, nothing. The structure had been built, used and abandoned with intention. And before they could cordon it off, it was burned to the ground. Not by weather, not by accident. By someone who knew exactly when to strike. A week later, a note arrived at the FBI office. White envelope, no return address. Inside, a photo, the same room, same chair. But now, a figure sat in it, unmoving, face obscured. And on the back of the photo, just 5 words. This one didn't need bleach. They never found that body, if it was real or staged. But something changed after that. He wasn't just cleansing anymore, he was designing, creating scenes without corpses. Rehearsals, blueprints, performances, and the message was clear. He didn't stop for 427 days to rest. He stopped to perfect his silence. Chapter 10. They found a house so clean. But the owner was missing for 12 years. It was supposed to be a foreclosure audit. Routine, bureaucratic. An old Victorian house in rural Ohio. No movement, no utilities for over a decade. The owner, a 62-year-old woman named Clara Finch. Last seen 12 years ago. No missing person report, no alarm, just gone. The bank sent a contractor to inspect the property. He expected mold, rot, vermin. Instead, he found perfection, not a speck of dust. No spiderwebs, no water damage. Even the hardwood floors were polished, as if someone had been maintaining the silence for years. The furniture was arranged with precision, curtains washed, silverware aligned. The refrigerator had no food. Only lemon-scented baking soda boxes neatly stacked, each one labeled by year, 2014, 2015, 2016, and so on. Someone had been coming back. Detectives arrived and swept the house. No fingerprints, no DNA, but behind the bathroom mirror, they found something chilling, a journal, wrapped in plastic, blank pages, except for one, dated 12 years prior. She was filthy. I made her better. She sleeps now. There was no body, no sign of struggle, only a bathtub so polished it reflected like a mirror. Inside the medicine cabinet, toothbrushes still in plastic, a comb. And a bottle of lemon oil labeled Finch. It wasn't storage. It was a trophy shelf. Neighbors had always assumed Clara moved away. She'd kept to herself. No family, no close friends. And the odd thing was, no one remembered her house ever looking messy. One neighbor said it always smelled like a hotel. Cold, like someone had just cleaned up. The timeline shattered everything the task force thought they knew. This house, this shrine, predated the first official murder, not by months. By years, meaning the killer had been rehearsing longer, perfecting in silence, long before the FBI even knew his name, before he had a file, he had a floor plan. In the attic, they found more. Plastic bins, each one labeled with initials, CF, MT, AB, dates, cleaning supply receipts, blueprints of bathrooms, photos, cropped, symmetrical, almost sterile. None showed faces, only rooms he had saved, or sanctified. One envelope had no label. Inside, a single photo, a mirror. And behind the mirror, a man's reflection, smiling not at the camera, but at himself. The timestamp was 13 years old, which meant he had been here longer than any of them imagined. He had begun in silence, and silence had never left. The house was sealed, studied and catalogued, but no one stayed overnight. Even the strongest agents felt it. The presence, not of a ghost, but of discipline, of someone who had scrubbed chaos out of the world, room by room. And though Clara Finch's body was never found, her bathtub became his first altar, and maybe, just maybe, the rest had been imitations of that perfect silence. The cleanest kill is the one you never find. No one ever found his face, not in footage, not in mirrors. He didn't want to be seen, he wanted to be felt. And now, every home with a fresh lemon scent, every perfectly folded towel, every empty room that somehow smells too clean, feels like a warning. The task force closed the case. Publicly, at least. But inside the bureau, a folder still sits on a locked shelf. No name, no mugshot, just two words, sanitary phantom. Because what do you call a killer who leaves no blood? Only silence, only symmetry, only the sense that something or someone has just been erased. So if one day you come home and everything looks spotless, even though you don't remember cleaning, if the air smells like citrus, if your reflection feels observed, look beneath the sink. Check behind the mirror and ask yourself, did I forget to clean, or did someone clean me?